It seems like it's been 40 weeks since you got 40 winks. Your back pain? Unbearable. Tossing, turning, trying to find that pain-free position. And that's the moment you realize you can't spend another waking moment putting off treatment.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for spine care, with a ton of surgical and non-surgical treatments for back pain. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better, the Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
The Pound This podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This podcast, episode 629, The Importance of Meal Tracking.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This podcast with Amanda Valentine.
What up? Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This podcast. I am Amanda Valentine, and let's talk about meal tracking, shall we? I know everybody's got a different vibe on meal tracking, so I just want to kind of throw my thoughts in there, being someone who has tracked my meals on and off for years. And I do think that they are very important, but I don't think that it's something that you need to do until you die. And I had this conversation multiple times throughout this week, as I am now working at Cincy 360 Fitness. Holla! If you need an in-person personal trainer and you happen to be in Cincinnati or the Cincinnati area, I would love to work with you. If you're interested in me as a personal trainer, you can email info@cincy360fitness.com and let's get her going. But since I'm at the gym now as a trainer and not as, just a trainee, although I haven't been training with Josh for over a year, because Josh was my trainer for over a year. And then, we don't need to go into that backstory, but yeah, this conversation has come up a lot in the past several days about meal tracking. And I will say my relationship with tracking your meals, and that's just like journaling, or MyFitnessPal is my go-to. There's like the Lose It app. I think people track in Noom. I know that's kind of you got a health coach with you. I don't know too much about that. But when I first started losing weight, well, actually, I want to say I did track what I was eating when I did my first hardcore diet, which was LA weight loss, which actually it's so funny. I just found my food diary, or one of them, because I was looking for a thing that somebody wrote in my yearbook. So my 8th grade yearbook, this girl wrote in there that she's like, sorry, we didn't hang out this year, but I can just tell one day I'm going to be rich and you're going to be a bum outside of my mansion, but don't worry, I'll give you $1. Yeah, I wanted to find that. But in the process, I found my food diary, because this is how I tracked my food while I did this specific diet, which is LA weight loss, which doesn't exist anymore. But like some of the things I wrote down, like I just opened to this day, I had eggs and toast and cantaloupe for breakfast, carrots and LA Light, that was their bars at the time, which were nasty. For lunch, I had a breadstick, and by that it's one of those like crunchy ones, not like an Olive Garden breadstick, cauliflower and peanuts. Just crushed it that day. I had pineapple for a snack. Cool. For dinner, I had chicken, onions, peppers, and cheese. And then for a snack, I had more LA Light bars. So for me, it's just kind of fun. This happened to be December 11th. I'm going to guess the year was probably 2005. Yeah, this had to be 2005. So that just kind of kept track, because I had to meet with somebody once a week of what I'm eating and where it is to my goals. So when I started losing, or I've lost over 100 pounds and maintained, which was a New Year's resolution in 2012 for me, I didn't track at all at first, because I had obviously tracked in the past in that way. And I tracked when I was doing Weight Watchers. Both times I did Weight Watchers. And I was just like, you know what? It stressed me out. I felt like I got more stressed on Weight Watchers of keeping track of points. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I started off by not tracking, just making better choices. And the weight was coming off. So again, I want to say that meal tracking is absolutely necessary, but I'm going to get into the reasons why I think that you should absolutely at least try it if you haven't, and the importance of it. But when I started really kind of diving into doing some more meal tracking is kind of when I was hitting a plateau. Like I was making healthier choices. I started walking and then I started running and, feeling really good. And then, you hit those dreaded plateaus and I'm like, okay, we're in a new phase now. Let's dial it in. And especially when I started meal prepping and I just wanted to know, I wanted to keep a better gauge of what I was doing. And so then I incorporated that and I've gone on and off of meal tracking on MyFitnessPal. Oh man, since probably, maybe 2014 or so. And there's times I'm super hardcore, do not miss a day. And there's other times where I want to eat more intuitively. But where I think it's incredibly important is even if you're not living a healthy lifestyle, you're off the wagon or wherever you're at in your journey, is to just track just to see where you are and not to shame yourself of like, oh God, like fatty, you ate a whole bucket of Popeyes. But it's like, it's just to see where you are. You have to know in order to like whatever hit your goals are to progress, whether that's weight loss or whatever, you're going to need to know what your baseline is, where you're at. So it gives you a really good idea if you're brutally honest, which come on, you're only lying to yourself. So be brutally honest. If you ate an entire, family-sized bag of Lay's, then write it down because it happened. And, you might have some feelings around that, but it's still like, you just got to be honest about what you're doing. If you sneak a pack of M&Ms during the day and you're like, well, I don't really want to count that. It still counts. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, if you go for a run and you don't have your Fitbit on, it still counts even though you didn't count it on the Fitbit. It's all that same mental game, right? Because I know that stuff sucks. I went on a hike one time, one of the hardest hikes I've ever done. I got altitude sickness from it. That's how intense this hike was. And I forgot my Fitbit and I was so pissed the whole time when I realized I didn't have it on me. Like, no, I could have crushed all of these floor goals. So I get it. I totally get it. But so just track that. And I'd say at least 2 weeks of just being brutally honest about everything that goes into your face. Every bite of everything, just like be as honest as possible because it's really going to tell you where you are and where you can progress from there. Of like, oh, I didn't realize how many just snacks I was eating throughout the day that I wasn't counting. You know what I mean? Or I didn't realize I was doing that so much until you have to write it down, right? It's kind of a wake up call. And it's also a good, opportunity once you kind of have that data, no matter how you're eating, to have a few weeks of like, okay, so this is not only what my calories look like, this is what my macros look like. Like this is how nutrient dense are the foods I'm eating. How much bang for the buck am I getting out of these foods? And it's good to like look through a journal of a day. Again, I think MyFitnessPal is the easiest because it just kind of calculates everything for you rather than just like writing it down. You know what I mean? Which I've journaled it before too, but I mean, MyFitnessPal is the jam or whatever app you want to use. And be like, okay, well, I'm not really eating that many nutrient dense foods. Or if you're kind of looking around macros, which you just think fats, proteins, carbs, you always want to have a balance of them, right? So even though if you're like, I don't know the math and the science of all this, it's so freaking confusing counting macros, which it can be. Just think of every time you eat, you kind of want to have a balance of those things, right? And so you can kind of see like every time you eat, well, how does that look? Does it look like balanced or did you just eat a butt ton of carbs? Or did you just eat a butt ton of protein and you don't have any other balance? You're not putting any fiber in there or anything else, or you're not having some healthy fats with that. It just gives you such a good picture. And then once you have those picture of things, that's when you're like, okay, if my goal is weight loss, how can I change this? And you can see those little things of like, you know what, maybe I'm going to eat a little smaller portion of this, or I'm going to add a little bit more of this, or I'm going to move this here. And you can start to formulate a plan because you know exactly what you're eating and the results you're getting from it. So then this is where one of the reasons I do love tracking food is because you can make a plan and making a plan in advance, which obviously I'm a planner. If you know me, if you listen to this podcast, especially if you follow me on Instagram at You Can Pound This, I'm a meal prepper. Like, I love meal prepping because it keeps me on track. It keeps me in the bumper lanes at the bowling alley. You know what I mean? And so when, you are tracking food, and if that's easier for you, you can think about what you're going to eat the next day, plan it out, put it in there, or the next week, or however long you want to do, or even you wake up in the morning and you want to plan out your day, and you can plug it all in and see how everything fits. Even if you're going out to eat, you're going to have some beers, whatever, you can kind of work your day around everything, right? And for me, this just relieves so much stress. Like, it seems like a lot of work to do that, but in my opinion, it feels like less mental work, because it's like, maybe 15 minutes, depending on, where you're at in the process of plugging that stuff in, to have a full day of already know what's going on, and you don't have to think, and you don't have to worry of like, well, what am I going to eat for lunch, and opening the fridge and just staring in there and be like, I guess a salad, I don't know. You know what I mean? Of like, to me, that gives me anxiety. At least at this point in my life, it does, where I'm like, I want to know what's going on. I know what my goals are. I know what I need to do to hit them. And having a plan is just so freaking important to me. Just like, also, if you think about, if you're exercising, you're going to the gym or whatever, you're doing a Peloton at home or whatever, you kind of like, it works so much better, doesn't it, when you have a plan of like, you know what, I work out before work, or I work out after work, or I work out on my lunch hour, or whatever that is. Like, you kind of have a plan of where it's going to fit into your day. And once you have that planned and scheduled out, it's just easier to flow. It just becomes it's a habit, right? It just becomes a flow of your life. And so I feel like meal tracking does that too. It just kind of takes the pressure off, the worry of like, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? It gives you a plan. Or even if you walk into the gym and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do today. I guess the treadmill again. I guess the elliptical, because you didn't walk in with a plan. And it can be like, it's paralyzing. If you walk into, like, say you walk into a Planet Fitness or something, and here's all these machines, and here's all these free weights, and here's all the cardio equipment. And if you don't have a plan of what you want to do when you go in there, like, I don't know. Right. And it's almost like then you just don't really do too much because you didn't think about it. At least in my experience for myself, and a lot of people that I've discussed this with have that same sort of thing. So it's just having that plan, and also keeping you accountable and keeping you on track of, for me too, especially with meal prepping, which I'm not saying everybody needs to meal prep. For me, it's like, especially when I was working, at a radio station, and I'm not working right now, like at a gym, and I'm working from home, that, so much free food came into the radio station all the freaking time. Like pizza, donuts, everything, every day. I mean, we had a freezer of free ice cream all summer. So for me, it's like, yes, this is all tempting. Yes, I want to eat this all. And some days I will, because I can, because it's my life. I choose to do whatever the hell I want to. But most of the time I'm like, well, I prepared this food. I have a plan. It's in the fridge. I'm going to stick to my plan because that's going to make me feel mentally and physically good right now, versus eating the donut with the bacon on it, which is delicious. Right? So, I mean, the meal tracking will help keep you accountable, give you a plan, help you reach your goals, and give you a good perspective of where you are, how the foods you're eating, how to incorporate other things. And I think that, just even, I'd say, do it for a month out of your life and give it a real good hard shot at it, and try not to stress over it, and really kind of like see it from the benefit side. And maybe that's all you need. You don't have to do it forever. You know what I mean? Of like, it's like, that gives me a good gauge, and I feel like I got this without having to track it every day. Then roll with your life. And then maybe if you hit some stumbling blocks and you're just like, man, like, oh, this weight is coming back and I don't know why. I feel like I'm eating healthy. Like, this is stupid. Like, I'm going to the gym. I think I'm eating right. Then maybe do some tracking again. It's like, oh, well, maybe it's not as healthy as I thought it was. Or, oh, maybe, you know, I didn't realize I was motoring down like that bowl of guac I ate was that many freaking calories. Holy crap. But guac is life. So I understand that. So it's a tool, right? It's a tool in the toolbox to use, in my opinion. So the times that I've been super hardcore with it it's great, and it's great for all of those things. And then sometimes I'm like, you know what? I've been doing this long enough. I'm just going to roll with it. And I would say that, still with meal prepping, a good portion of 2019, especially, I'm just like, I'm going to intuitively eat a little bit. I'm not going to be as insane with myself with calories and macros. And that's fine. I was in maintenance. It's great. And now, with the help of Sarah D Fit With Me, my friend that's a health coach, and she's fantastic. It's teamfitwithme.com if you're interested in her. And she's very macro focused. I'm going through this reverse diet, which this is my first week not doing that, which I am personally very psyched about, which is if for a reverse diet. So if you think that you've eaten in a calorie deficit for so long, because you're in weight loss mode so long, right? And your metabolism can get jacked up from that. And it's hard because then it's like, have you ever noticed when you've done like a cheat meal or whatever, and it feels like you gain 5 pounds and it takes a week for it to come off? It's like, because your body is just so attuned to this low calorie mark that you hover at. So in order to get your calories up and get to a more maintenance level of calories, a reverse diet is slowly inching up. Like inching every week, and seeing to the point where you're just going to, not gain weight, that you're eating more while you're still maintaining the same weight, which is what I've done for the past 3 months, which using MyFitnessPal and counting calories and macros and everything with Sarah. And so I've been hovering. I have not really lost much weight, but I've had a huge difference in my body. Inches wise, visually, I can see a difference. And now we found my true maintenance calories, where the weight that I'm, where I'm at with the food I am without gaining weight or losing weight. So now we know from that information. So I want to lose some weight, thanks COVID. And so now we know where to dip down from, right? So it's like, I know my maintenance calories are at this line right here. Now we're going to go into a caloric deficit inch by inch too, and watch the goals happen. And it's a lot of patience, which I don't have, right? Most of us are like, get this weight off me now. And I don't want to wait for freaking ever, but trust me from my own experience, it works better and it's long lasting when you do it the slow way. And so for me now, we're just now going into the mode of, for me to dip into a caloric deficit to start losing some lbs. And that is a process. I know that's like an intense process, and not everybody is where they are in their journey where I'm at right now, that needs a high level of tracking. Like it is a science experiment at that point. So right now, that's where I'm at. I am at that level, which is, that's a lot of tracking. It's a lot of weighing and measuring, and that's fine because I actually feel really good when I'm doing that. And again, it's all just about different phases of your life. Sometimes I love this phase of like just being very exact, making it a science. And I did this a couple years ago too, where I did almost 2 years of like nonstop tracking every day, exact science, figuring this out. And other times, like I said, in like 2019, I'm like, yeah, I can let that go right now. And that doesn't feel as good for me right now. It feels good for me to just make healthy choices and not track everything, not weigh everything as exact. And, it feels good. And then I'm in this phase now, and this will change too. And it's just going with the flow. And again, using the things like tracking as a tool for your goals in the moment, because your goals will always change. Even though if you might think your goal is always just lose weight and just be less people, right? Like it just feels like that's kind of how the mindset but a good portion of us seem to just live in forever, right? It's just like, keep losing weight. Like even for me, being at a level like that, even I can look at pictures of myself when I was at my most fit before I had injuries. And I'm just like, damn, I'm jacked. And I'm like, that is amazing. But it's like, things change. Life happens. A pandemic hits, you know what I mean? And so you just got to ebb and flow and roll with it. And that's the best that you can do. And it's like, all right, well, the point I was going to make with that is even at that point where I felt like super jacked, I still thought I was too fat. I'm just like, oh my God, just keep losing weight. Cause my whole brain, I mean, as long as I can remember as a kid, is just like, you're fat, lose weight. Not only for myself, but the people around me. So it's hard to change out of that mindset of that. But, you know, that isn't always the goal. And there's always goals around that too. Strength goals of, you know, just goals of like having habits. And I mean, there's lots of ways to have goals other than losing weight. And there's tools that you use to achieve those goals, no matter what they are. Maybe it's like, hey, I want to become stronger in the gym, but I know that I need an accountability buddy. So either you find a friend to go with you, you hire a personal trainer, and that's a tool in your toolbox, right? Of like, that's the goal. This is going to help me get there. And that's the same thing with tracking. And so it's not an absolute, you're going to lose weight. It's going to work if you do this, and it won't work if you don't. Or so many people are in so many different camps of the right and the wrong way to do things. And it's just all personal preference, really. It's about what you like, what you'll stick to, and what works for your own body. And that's why I would recommend trying, especially this tool, but any tool, just to see if it works for you. And not everything will. Same thing with fitness of like, you might go try a yoga class and just be like, I hate this. This sucks. So don't go. You know what I mean? Like, but now you know, but maybe you'll try a bar class and you'll love it. And now you know. It's just like trying those experiments of like to figure it out, and also knowing that those aren't absolute forever, and your tastes will change, your body will change, your habits will change, the world changes around you, so it has to change. So it's just kind of, you know, going with the flow. So I hope that answers that question about tracking. And yeah, I'm a fan of it. I also understand where it can be stressful. Or I'll say when I did get stressed before using MyFitnessPal was kind of like the Weight Watchers thing where I got stressed and I gained weight, is because I wouldn't have a plan the day before. I would, you know, or plan it out. I would just kind of go through the flow with the day. And then I would get so spooked out that I was going to eat all my calories that I would eat like nothing in the front end of the day. Like I'd eat like a little baby bird. And then at night, I'm like, oh, dang, I got so many calories. I'm going to stuff my face. I'm going to eat all the refried beans and all the cheese. I don't know why that was my choice, especially when I was Weight Watchers, but it fit into my points for some reason. I was all about it. And so then you're just, it throws things off balance. And I would just stress because I was so worried that I was going to run out of calories or run out of points. And I don't know and that's not productive. If it's making you do that, you got to bounce on it, which I did. And I came back when I was in a healthier space with it and I could plan it out and it was useful for me. And it wasn't, the cause of issues in my life. So yeah. Anywho, that's what I have to say about that. If you ever have any questions or there's a topic you want to cover, or especially if there's anybody you'd like me to interview or have a discussion with on this podcast, please, please, please send me your feedback, because I honestly don't know who is listening to this podcast unless you let me know, because podcasts are weird like that, man. I don't know who's downloading this or listening to it. So if you ever want to reach out, Amanda@AmandaValentineBites.com is my email. I'm usually, unless something slips by me, which it happens, I'm really quick at answering emails. Also DMs on Instagram @YouCanPoundThis. I make it a point to respond to every single DM I get. And so unless, again, something slips under the cracks somehow, which has happened, but it usually doesn't. So, if there's everything you want to hear, questions, etc., please reach out. Would really appreciate that. As always, would really appreciate sharing this podcast with friends, family, groups, etc., etc. That would be great. And I do really appreciate you listening very, very much. So, yeah, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
For info on health coaching and more, go to AmandaValentineBites.com.